Today we recreate the simplistic black and white animation style of the YouTube legend Dan Koe. So before we start, let's have a quick look at what we will build in this video. If you don't create a purpose, you will be assigned one. So get out there and start creating and find your journey to unlimited fulfillment and happiness.
Make sure to stay until the end, because then I will reveal the last but most important step. First, we want to create the zoom in effect for the quote display. To get started, go to Effects and under Titles, search for the Text Plus node. Drag it into your timeline and be careful to drag it into the second video layer and not the first, because we need a background later. Now we can close the effects again, and on the Text Plus node, go to the inspector and change the font type to Questrial. This is the closest font I found to Dan Koe's video style. Now type in your quote, example quote, and let's choose a size. Maybe I will increase the text length so it's more realistic to a quote. This is an example quote and it will be displayed here. Okay, so let's decrease the size so it fits. And this will be the end size. So drag the cursor to the end of the clip and make a keyframe on the size attribute. Now go to the beginning and decrease the size just a little bit, not too much. Now if we play it back, the text increases in size. In Dan Koe's videos, there are often backgrounds which are animated. I've got one too. I found this on a stock video site and I just searched for dust background. So let's get rid of the audio. Now the background is really distracting. So let's click on it and in the inspector drag down the opacity. And now if you play it back, it looks like our example in the intro. Next, we want to recreate the Anvil animation. Drag a Fusion composition into your timeline and head over to the Fusion tab. Then open your media pool and get your hammer and your anvil image. For me, both of them are in the same image, so I will have to duplicate it. And now use mask to separate the hammer and the anvil. But before I will do this, I take a merge node and a multi-merge node, connect them and into the media out. Then I will use a background node and drag it into the merge node. And on the background node, I will reduce the alpha value to 0. Now we can connect the media in 1 and the second media in to the multi-merge node. On the top one, I will mask a hammer. So let's get a polygon connected to the media in and draw a mask around our hammer. Then I will use a second polygon node and connect it to the media in. And sometimes DaVinci has a bug where it doesn't show the anvil anymore, but you can just draw your polygon. And when you're finished, it will show up again. Now I want to change the color of both of these to white. So we will push them together to have a little bit more space. And after the multi-merge node, I will get a background node and connect the multi-merge to the background. Then I can connect the background to the merge node. Now you can see the hammer and the anvil went to black, and we can control the color by using this color of the background. I want them to be white. And to add a little bit more visual interest, I will press Shift space and add a soft glow node. You can adjust the gain. I will reduce it a little bit. For example, like this. Now let's animate the hammer. The hammer is the media node on top, and I will drag a transform node between the media in and the multi-merge. And in the inspector you have the pivot value, and move it to the side. Now you can see the pivot is this round thing here, and I will move it somewhere on the back of the handle, and this is the point where our image will rotate around. So if I change the angle, our hammer rotates around this pivot. But now there's the issue that the hammer goes out of the frame. So I will drag this part to the back so we have a little bit more space. And now I will drag a second transform node after the multi-merge node, and I will scale the hammer and the anvil down a little bit. Now we can click on the transform of the hammer again, and I will reset the angle. And now I will go to frame 0 in our timeline, make a keyframe on the angle, then I will move forward 4 frames and change the angle to a point where the hammer hits the anvil. Then I will move the playhead again. This time I will move it a little bit more than just 4 frames, to about 12 frames. And now I will adjust the angle again, and I will move it a little bit further than 0 to about 5.2. If we play back our animation now, it looks like this, and it's still a little bit robotic. So we go to this spline with the transform enabled. Then we have to click this button on the angle, and as you can see, you can't see the keyframes here, so click this button, and now we have the keyframes here. I don't want to adjust the first keyframe, so I will just select the second 2 keyframes and press move. Now you can see DaVinci has smoothed out the curve, and if you press T on your keyboard, you can show these ease in and ease out values, and you can adjust them to make it even smoother. To make a loop from our animation, we can now select all our keyframes and click on this icon to loop the animation. But now you can see there's a little jump because we moved the hammer further to the top than the beginning, and we have to add another keyframe. I will do this at frame 16. And we will change the angle to 0 at frame 16. So, like this. And now we can select all our keyframes again, disable the loop, and enable it again. Now there is no jump. If you want your hammer to hit the anvil faster, you can select the first 2 keyframes and click on this icon to change the timing. Now, when the hammer travels downwards, it will be faster. And to show that the hammer hits the anvil, I want to show a little bit of a spark effect. So let's create this. Get a background node and an ellipse mask. Drag the ellipse mask into the background node and connect the background to our multi-merge. We have a big circle. Click on the ellipse, and you can change the height and the width, but I don't like it to be individually. So let's reset them. And there's a little trick you can do. You can right click on the height and go to expression. And now you can click and hold this plus icon and drag it over the width. Now if you change the width, the height changes accordingly. So let's position this, and I think it's a little bit too far on the right. So click on this transform of the hammer and move the center X value a little bit to the left. Okay, back to our ellipse. Move this to the spot. And scale it a little bit down so we can see. Okay. Now I will add with Shift A, a Gaussian blur between the background and the multi-merge. And let's increase the ellipse. And we can see it's a little bit too soft. So let's increase the strength of the Gaussian blur to 1. And decrease the size again. And now let's animate the ellipse. You can click on this transform of the hammer to see where the keyframes are. And our hammer hits the anvil at keyframe 4. And then it travels up again until keyframe 12. And with keyframe 16 it travels to the origin again. So we have our ellipse starting at 4. Click on it. And there's this level control. At keyframe 3 we want it to be 0. And at keyframe 5 we want it to be fully visible. And I also want to change the size of the ellipse, so go to keyframe 4. Let's make it pretty small. Click the keyframe icon and move over to about frame 14 and make it bigger. And on keyframe 14 I will decrease the level to 0 again. So it will increase the size but slowly fades out. And to make this repeat like the hammer animation, we have to select it, and I will select the transform of the hammer too. Now we can show all our keyframes. And if we just show our hammer animation, it goes to frame 16 and starts at frame 2. And to have our ellipse animation repeat the same way as our hammer does, we have to add keyframes in the same spot. So let's go to level and just add a keyframe. So click the ellipse and go to level and just add a keyframe at frame 2 and a keyframe at frame 16. You don't have to change any values on these keyframes. Now we can deselect our transform animation and show both our level and our width. And now we have to add keyframes for the width and the height at the same 2 frames. So let's go to frame 2, add a keyframe for the width, go to frame 16 and add also a keyframe. Now select all keyframes and press the loop icon. And if we close down the spline and play our animation back, you can see everything works as we intended.
In the next scene of the intro, I showed you this path travel effect, and we will recreate this in the Fusion page. So go to the Effects panel, go to Effects, and drag a Fusion composition into your timeline. Then move the cursor over it and head over to the Fusion page. In here, we will drag a background node into the node graph and connect it with a merge node to the media out. On the background node, go to an inspector and change the alpha value to 0. Now we have a transparent background. Get another background node and change the color to white.
Then get this polygon and drag it behind the background and connect it to it. Now you can see there's a blue connection between the polygon and the background, which means the background will only show up where the polygon is drawn. The polygon acts as a mask here. So connect the background to the multi-merge, and with the polygon selected, go to the view, maybe zoom out a little bit, and draw a path. Now my path has a lot of sharp corners, so I will click on this icon and select all of the points. And now we can press on this curve icon to smooth out our corners. If we deselect these points, you can see nothing shows up. That's because our polygon doesn't have a line thickness. So in the inspector, search for the border width, and you can see it's at 0, and just increase it. If you watch closely in the intro, I have a little circle at the end. We will add this too. Get a rectangle mask and just place it behind the polygon mask and connect it to it. Now go to the inspector, and you could either change the height and the width individually, or you could link the height to the width with right click, expression, and then drag and hold the plus sign from the height on the width. If you change the width now, you can change the height accordingly. So let's make it a lot smaller, round about this size, and drag it to our endpoint. In the next step, I will add some glow to our path. So let's make a little bit of space. Press Shift space and type in soft glow. Press enter. And if you hold down Shift and drag this over the connection, it will automatically connect it. Maybe adjust the gain a little bit, because I don't want it to glow as much as it does right now. This seems fine. To convert our path from the 2D world into the 3D world, we will now add a DVE node with Shift space. And drag it over your connection again. On this DVE node, you can change the rotation of the plane. So if you change the X value, it tips the whole plane a little bit over. If you look at the top of this inspector, you can see there's a Z move. And with this slider, you can zoom in and out. In the next step, we will animate our path. So click on the polygon, go to frame 0, and in the inspector, there's a length slider. And as you can see, if I decrease it, our polygon line will be shortened. We will start at 0, then we move some frames forward. I will move to about frame 60 and drag it all the way up. So if we play it back now, our polygon line is animated. In the preview, it doesn't run smoothly, but it's okay. If we render this, it will. And you can see that our endpoint shows up the whole time, but we don't want this. So click on the ellipse, go to frame 60 where our line reaches the ellipse, animate the width and the height at this point, or you can just animate the width because we have linked the height to the width. Now move 2 frames forward and decrease the value to 0. So now if we play it back, it just appears when we reach our destination. If you want to spice up this animation, you could add another keyframe some frames behind the last one and decrease the width just a little bit again. And maybe go to the middle keyframe and increase it. So now if you play it back, there's a little pop-up effect. To smooth it out, select the ellipse, go to spline, then click on this. Then click on these 2 buttons and click this button to show all keyframes. And you can use your mouse and select all of the keyframes and press this button to smooth out the spline. There's another thing we can smooth out, and this is the polygon if it reaches the destination. And we can make it go slower at the end. So with the So with the polygon selected, go to the spline, select only the last keyframe, click this button or press S, and then press T on your keyboard. And now you can change the ease in value to make it go slower at the end. In the last step, we want to follow our line. And to achieve the animation which follows our path, we will decrease the Z move to zoom in a little bit, and then move the center to a point where you can see the line. I want to let it start at the center. Then we will press animate. Then we will move our cursor to frame 0 and press animate. Then move the cursor back to frame 60 and change the center to a position you like. And press animate again. Das kurz rausschneiden. To round this up, we will go to the spline, select the last keyframe, press S to smooth it, and change the ease in value like this. And now this animation is finished. For the fourth scene, we also need a fusion composition. Get your Clover image and drag it into your node graph. Then you can close the media pool again. Then get a merge node, connect it to the media out. Get a background node, connect it to the merge node. And change the background alpha to 0. Then get a second merge node and connect the other two nodes. Now you can see our Clover leaf, but it's still in red because I used some heart icons to create it in Photoshop. To change this, we will get our background node and connect the media in to the background node and the background node to the multi-merge. Now it's black. Let's change the color to white. Next, we will add our glow effect behind the multi-merge. So add a soft glow. Connect it. And reduce the gain. To rotate our Clover leaf, we need a transform node. Let's connect it behind the multi-merge. And go to the beginning. Animate the angle on the 0 value. And then go somewhere to maybe frame 80. And change the angle value. Now we can play it back and check if the velocity seems fine. I think it does. So next, go to the spline, click on the angle to show it, then show all keyframes. Now select the second keyframe, make it smooth, and press T and increase the ease in value quite a lot. Now if you play it back, it slows down at the end. To improve the visuals, go to the settings and enable motion blur. Now I will take these two nodes and copy them with Ctrl C, then paste them with Ctrl V and connect them to the multi-merge. Then I will take a transform, move it in between and change the size quite a bit. And between the transform and the background we will put a Gaussian blur node. Let's change the strength. And on a transform, change the angle so it isn't the same angle as our origin Clover leaf. And to finish things up, we will add an ellipse and a background node. Connect them, change the background to white. Connect it to our multi-merge. And connect our height and width values. Scale down the ellipse. So it's just a little circle in the middle. And here we will add a Gaussian blur node too. But after the background node. And I will increase the strength quite a bit. To about 0.87. And that's it for the cloverleaf animation, but don't leave yet, because now comes the most important part of our video editing, sound design. If you want your animations to feel alive, you really need to pay attention to the details in the sound design. So in my case, I added sounds for the hammer hitting the anvil, a piano dispense at the beginning, or a bicycle chain sound for the cloverleaf rotation. And when I use transitions, I use whoosh sounds. If you look at the difference between an animation without sound design and with, you will be surprised.
If you don't create a purpose, you will be assigned one. So get out there and start creating and find your journey to unlimited fulfillment and happiness. If you don't create a purpose, you will be assigned one. So get out there and start creating and find your journey to unlimited fulfillment and happiness.
So go to your favorite sound library and download these sounds and place them under your animations. And if you want to learn how to edit like Ali Altbal, watch this next video.